So if I fulfill my joke quota for today, I've got more.
Yeah,
It could get worse.
it'll be tough. It'll be tough.
Where's a woman who, she said, you know, my family treats me like a god. She says, they only talk to me when they want something.
All right.
That's bad.
Last one. So, I was telling somebody my parents are getting pretty old. My dad's going to turn 90 this summer. She goes, that's nothing. I've got a grandmother who's still alive, and she's got a shirt that says Washington slept here. That's all.
Probably good.
I have no more.
Good note to start.
What's today, 17th? January 17th? Man. Well, my official welcome to the Love Your Life workshop. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, Reynolds. Glad you didn't have to babysit today. That's good.
No more babies
All right,
on
all right.
Sunday.
I had to open that door, didn't
They
I?
got I babysit my own kids. I took care of my own kids. Grandpa said he got me babysitting. They weren't even out to the ground. They don't need a babysitter. They called me up. I'm tired of changing diapers.
I don't blame you.
Good morning.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
The Love Your Life workshop. Welcome.
How you doing, Mike?
Hey, Mike.
A couple guys know me here.
What's that?
I see a couple guys know me. Remember that time we knocked out the walls and all that?
Yeah, I knew. I knew you were here. We were talking about that before, and I said there was a few people here, and we haven't seen them in a while. And I was trying to remember who all that was, and then I remembered you were one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, one Sunday morning we took down the wall.
Yeah.
I was back in 2010 before I went down to Florida.
I
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. We were talking about a month ago. Came up.
Well, this morning I want to talk about moments. Moments. I remember in 7th grade science class, the teacher getting up and saying, cells are the building block of life. And so we talked about cells and everything in them. And in a similar way, moments are the building blocks of our lives, moments. And moments connected, the connection of all the moments make up our lives. And so I just want to kind of focus on that this morning, think about that, moments. Our lives are a connection of moments. And, you know, in a moment, we can laugh. In a moment, we can cry, you know. And in a moment, we can say something rash, and in another moment, apologize. You know, and in a moment, we can feel discouraged, and in another moment, we feel on top of the world. We can do anything, you know. In one moment, we can feel lost, and the next moment feel found, feel like we got it together. And one moment we're just no energy, and another moment we're ready to go. You know, it's kind of funny, these moments, and they can be so different, sometimes very close together, even though they're so different. You know, one moment we can just feel full of anxiety, and then another moment just complete peace. You know, and maybe the same things going on in our lives, but we feel those different things in these moments. We have moments that are just ordinary moments, and then we have other moments that are bigger moments in different ways, moments that seem to influence us a little bit more, influence our lives, impact, and yet our lives are full of these moments. We have a moment in which we're born, we have a moment in which we'll die. And it's kind of our lives, you know. And yet, We also have moments like last night where it's noise, very noisy, and then we have quiet moments. And yet every moment, I believe, every moment is sacred. Every moment is sacred. And so I like Sunday morning because we take a moment to just kind of be quiet, a moment to reflect, a moment to think about this idea of what it means to love God and love your neighbor, a moment to reflect and think about what does it mean to love your life and to bring good things into your life. As we think about that, you know, I think about this fact that, you know, a lot of us sat here last week, and we've been here week after week, or we see each other at different points, and yet to think we're not quite the same people we were a week ago. We're not quite the same people. And I don't know if I could even put my finger on the difference in my life, but I'm not the same person I was a week ago. I've been through other things. I've had a lot more moments between last week and this week, and so have you. And you know, if we sat here and we had a real slow dimmer on these lights, and it just a little teeny change every so often, we might not even notice. By the end, at the end, you might say, hey, you know, it's dimmer than it was, and we might even not be sure because the changes are so imperceptible, but yet there's these changes. And in a sense, we do change. We're not the same people that we were a week ago. There's been some experiences we've been through, and it has changed us a little bit. So, I think a little bit about how do we make these moments connect? What do we make of all these moments that we have in our lives? And what am I trying to say about them? There's a verse in the Bible where it says, all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And I don't use that verse lightly, because sometimes it's used and it comes across to say when somebody has something terrible happen, they lose a loved one, say, well, it's going to all work out. You know, and I personally think that's a harsh thing to say. You know, it can be, depending on your relationship with that person in this situation. Somebody loses a loved one or has a tragic thing happen, their house burns down, it's going to be fine. All things work together. You know, I'm not sure that's what that verse means. But what that verse means to me is that there is this mysterious assurance that even in the face of moments seemingly gone bad, that somehow, as a part of my story, they're going to be connected, and even good can come from that. You know, so there's a lot of questions about how does that happen, you know, but I just leave it with that it kind of a restful, calm assurance, a mysterious assurance in the way that things work, moments in our lives. And I like to think of moments as not defining moments, but refining moments. And I'll tell you why. A lot of times we talk about defining moments in our lives, and certainly there are moments that stand out more than others. Maybe a moment in which something happens that does change our course. But sometimes when we think of defining moments, we tend to live for these big moments in between. And yet, all moments are refining in some way. They're developing, refining who we are. And so I think all moments are important and are sacred. And so in thinking about that, I think, you know, we don't want to miss out on one moment just waiting for another moment. We don't want to say, well, here's the big moment, and I'm going to kind of miss out and not pay too much attention or place much emphasis on all these moments in between because it's this big moment I want to get to. And I think we probably all experience, and we hear about people who win Super Bowls or win the lottery and things like that. And that's that big moment, right? And it's never quite what they think it's going to be. And sometimes they get there and they're real unhappy and unfulfilled. And why? Because that's just a moment. It's just a moment. It's not your life. And so if we spend our life waiting for these moments, a lot of times they don't come. And so then we end up living in feeling unfulfilled, feeling like we've missed out. And life, instead of feeling like life is out there ahead of me in some moment, we feel like it's not even ahead of me. I blew it. You know, I had this defining moment and I blew it. I didn't do that thing. I didn't use that talent. I didn't have this break that other people have, you know. So we don't want to look at it this way. We want to look at all moments are connected. All moments are refining. All moments are sacred. And not to miss out on this moment, waiting for another moment. Not to miss out on this moment. That's one of the things I enjoy about yoga is just to focus on this moment. This moment. And really, that's the focus I want to have all day long, every day. Focus on this moment. Also, in a similar vein, we sometimes miss out on the people around us because we're thinking of something else or thinking of our own response. I might miss out on a conversation. I might miss out on something Kate says to me because I'm hearing the first word and I'm immediately thinking what I'm going to say. You ever had this happen? Then the person you're with gets done and you really don't know what they just said. You know, if you had to say it back, because we missed that moment. And we're only living in a moment really in the future, even if it's in 15 seconds or 30 seconds. We've missed that moment. So we don't want to do that either. And finally, we don't want to miss the moment or miss an opportunity by overthinking or overanalyzing the moment. There are moments that are presented to us that there's a chance to do something, and we overthink it or we overanalyze it, what they call the paralysis of analysis. You know, we think something, we analyze it before we know the moment's passed. And I think sometimes, so we miss out on the chance to really be in that moment and affect that moment. You know, and the story it comes to mind is the story with Jesus walking by the blind man. The disciples say, well, who sinned? Here is parents. And it was almost like, well, let's analyze it. And by the time they've analyzed it for a few seconds, they'll be past the blind man. And yet, what happens is Jesus interacts in that moment, interacts with this blind man, changes his life. You know, so we don't want to miss one moment waiting for another, even in a conversation, and we don't want to miss the opportunity to act in a moment because of fear or because of just analysis. All right, just a few things. In some moments, all you can do is be and breathe. I would say breathe. You can tell I've been teaching yoga. So in some moments, all you can do is breathe. And breath really is a wonderful thing. You know, it's how we get oxygen to our body. And when I started exercising and running and doing yoga and learning about breathing, I realized I breathe, my breath was pretty shallow most of the time. You know? And it's interesting because our bodies were designed to take in deep breath and let that breath go throughout our body for oxygen, for healing, for life, you know, for vitality. And sometimes in the moment, that's about all we can do. Sometimes the moment doesn't present much for us to do, except be. There's a verse in the Bible, be still and know that I'm God. Be still and be aware of who you are and where you are, and be aware of the universe, and be aware of all the greatness, all that's sacred. Be aware. And probably in our busy worlds and in our busy minds, we probably don't take enough time to just be aware, to just be. But our life is full of those opportunities, those moments. And I think there's nothing more sacred than a moment of just being and being aware. stopping. And that's one thing I love about Sunday morning. I think it's one of those moments in a way to just be and be aware. Now, there's other moments in our lives, and I think this is the bulk of our lives, where all we do is put one foot in front of the other. You know, that's all we can do. Just kind of put one foot in front of the other. It doesn't seem glamorous. It doesn't seem like we're doing any big thing. Maybe we're putting one foot in front of the other, doing the same thing we do all day. You know, maybe for Reynolds, it's putting one foot in front of the other, walking all over town, like I see all over town. Or it's going to work and putting one foot in front of the other, doing the thing. Or it's at home, doing the things that you have to do, you know, washing the dishes, cleaning, things that we do. It doesn't seem glamorous. It seems like we can do it on autopilot, but who wants to live on autopilot, right? And yet the alternative is not to be, it's hard to be so engaged in every moment when we're doing some of these same things over and over. So how do we bring perspective to that? It's just understanding that this has always been the bulk of people's lives, putting one step in front of the other. You know, there's a time to be still. There's a time to step and put one step in front of the other. Once again, there's a Bible verse in the Psalms where he talks about God's word being a lamp to his feet, a lamp to his feet. And I like to think of that as a lamp to your feet, to your step. It's not a lamp to your destination. It's a lamp to your feet. Where I work, I have to sometimes go in this one large receiving storeroom that is piled full of teacher stuff. It's difficult to walk in there without a light, and the light takes 15 minutes to come on. So I use my phone lamp, my phone light. If I hold it up, I can see the room, but I can't see where I'm walking, and I'm liable to trip. So I have to hold it down to where I'm walking, and you have an idea of where I'm going, you know. So it's a step at a time. And I like to think of life as being that way, that being in the moment is somehow being satisfied with just taking the step that's in front of us. We may not know where all it's going. We may have an idea of our destination, where that might lead, but we're taking a step. But at least we're taking a step. But that's a lot of life. And then in some moments in life, we have these big refining moments for our lives, and there's a whole wide range of them. But it's a moment in which we are called to act. You know, we're called to act in some way. And it can be a big, important act that seems like a big, major thing in our lives. It can be a smaller thing, but we're called to act. And it's a call to act in a bigger way than just that ordinary putting one foot in front of the other on more familiar territory. But it's kind of a decisive moment, it seems, at the time. You know, I think of Abraham being called to leave his father's land and go off to another place. He didn't know where it was, but he left. He acted. He didn't know where he was going exactly, but he followed that call. He followed that call in that moment. So we have these moments in which we take what I call a crazy step of faith. Almost senseless. It just doesn't make sense on some levels. But we sense this step, and maybe it seems out of our comfort zone. Maybe we're uncomfortable with it. Maybe we're on one hand a little fearful, but on the other hand kind of adventurous, feel adventurous, you know. And so we take this step. It's a little scary, but exciting. And we take the step. There's the story where the Israelites had come to the Jordan River, and now they were to cross the Jordan River and go to the other side. And from what I've read, is that where they would have crossed, you didn't just wade out like at the beach, but you would step off the bank into, boom, deep water. And the priests were supposed to lead this, and the priests who were leading the priests were the priests carrying this wooden crate that they called the ark. And so their job was to step off into the water. And Joshua, God through Joshua had told the people, you know, you're going to walk across on dry land. The only problem was when they stepped off, it wasn't dry land. So they came to this moment. You know, what are you going to do in this moment? And you're the first guy there. What are you going to do? This isn't an ordinary moment. This isn't just a everyday, okay, I got to go on through my same old steps. This is like a big moment. And it's senseless. It's crazy, you know. And yet there is you are compelled to step off and to believe that somehow, in some mysterious assurance that good will come out of this. That there's going to be a path, there's going to be a destination. You can't see it right now, you don't know what all it holds, but you step off. And so those are the moments sometimes we focus on. But those are not the only moments of our lives. Those are moments. But we get to those moments through the everyday moments. We get to those moments even through the quiet moments and the still moments. And we get to those moments even sometimes when we foul them up. We mess them up. You know, the Bible is not just full of stories of people who stepped out into that, you know, faith moment and watched the waters part. We see other people really messing up those moments. You know, if you read Abraham's story, he left his father's land, but then he had moments where he lied and he did crazy things, and yet he continued to move forward in those moments. So that's why I don't call them defining. They don't define us. They refine us. But we do have those moments. And so it's good to know in those moments that we all share those. We all share that sense of sometimes fear, sometimes excitement, sometimes failure, you know. But then we keep walking. We keep walking through these other moments. So I just want to share all that. Something I've been thinking about is just focusing on each moment. And somehow, even in the most mundane moments, realizing the sacredness of every moment. We are sacred not because of the things we do, but because of who we are, who made us. That's why we're sacred. And so, just as if you went to the White House, or you went to another country and there's a king, everything the king would do would be kingly because he's the king. You know, if we believe that we are created by God and we're sacred, everything we do is important. And that's not to walk around with this sense of heaviness, like, well, every moment's important, you know, I got to do the right thing in this moment. No, it's really to unburden us and realizing, you know, it's not just these big moments that are important and I better get them right. It's that every moment, even in this difficult moment or boring moment or moment where, you know, you're at work or with a friend or a spouse and you're talking and suddenly you can have this awareness. This is an important moment. It's a valuable moment. And just be in that moment. You know, I think it's one of the greatest things we can do. I think you can go back and read the life of Jesus and see how he was in every moment. I cannot conceive, and it's not written, I cannot conceive of one moment where Jesus would have said, what was that? I'm sorry, I was thinking about something else. You know, can you imagine that? And yet, he seemed to drop everything. Like he's in a crowd and a woman touches him to be healed, and he stops. And even more than the miraculous thing of that he felt power go, was that he stopped and he focused on this woman right there. He's walking through Jericho, and all these crowds around him, all this praise, and he stops and he focuses on this little guy up in a tree. He's in that moment, you know. So that's the encouragement, be in the moment.
I think life's a moment. Because I had joys of my marriage, my 4 children. I had sadness for my wife dying of cancer. I had grief for my boy getting killed in Iraq. But It's a moment. I had God work with me to cope with it, live with it, and go on with my life. Can't bring them back. Can't bring my wife back. Can't bring my son back. Go on with your life. And do the best you can each day. And be grateful for the people around you and the friends you got and a roof over your head, food in your stomach, and be grateful for the things you got. Look around you, what you got.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. God takes care, He loves His people. And God helps. There's good, bad, there's good times, there's bad times, there's sad times, there's everything. But it's just a moment.
Yeah.
I can't breathe for the rest of my life. I grieved for about a year and a half of my son getting killed. But the thing is, I can't grieve for the rest of my life. I can go on with my life.
Yeah. Well said.
This is like me right now. I mean, I'm in this moment, but on the first, I had to go to court because there was a moment. Okay, I mean, I'm an alcoholic, drug addict, right? I went to rehab last summer. I ended up in the halfway house. And one moment I was at some girl's house and she come out with 2 rum and cokes. Well, I made 2 drinks and I'm thinking to myself, this ain't gonna hurt. So I drank that 1 drink. I got back to the halfway house I was at. Of course, I walked in and said a couple words, went upstairs. I figured I'm gonna get away with this and nobody's even gonna know I did it. About a half hour later, the manager of the house comes up and says, "Mike, you been drinking?" I said, "No, why?" He said, "Because you're not acting like yourself." So, I mean, if you know anything about drinking and drug, and I mean, it's a terrible mess. And anyway, so I felt guilty, and so I said no, but they breathalyzed me, and it was a 0.006. And of course, the rule is no drinking in the house, no drugs. So the defining moment was, okay, you're gonna have to leave. Well, I already had a nice job. So the next day I packed my stuff up, and the first thing I found was one of my old friends that I drank with had a pickup truck, and we picked up another friend, and we picked up my stuff and dropped it off over someone else's house behind their garage. And I said I'd get it, as soon as I possibly can. A whole bunch of clothes in the toolbox, a couple other things. Well, that day started off with me drinking with my 2 buddies, because now I got a reason to drink. I'm homeless, blah, blah, blah. I end up in jail that night. I end up in that defining moment again, boom. All right, because I mean, as far as I am concerned, I've had my fill of drinking, I've had my fill of all that stupid stuff, and I've pushed God to the limit with me. As far as the direction He's trying to tell me what I should be doing is in my relationship with what I believe that He wants me. I mean, He tells me not to be a drunkard in the Bible. And so I ended up in jail, lost a job, lost everything. Boom. Okay, so I get out. I got into the men's shelter. I was fortunate enough to get in there. And I got a job real quick, another one. Had to go get my tools and take them to another place. Everything was working out. Another defining moment, I drank. Out of that place. I mean, if I drink, it's like, boom! You didn't listen. Watch and see. So, I ended up out on the street again, and I started, anyways, I'm not allowed to go into the rotating shelter because last year I walked away on Christmas Day to go to my uncle's house. I'm banned because I walked away to go to my uncle's. Anyways, I'm not even going to get into that one there, but that has put me in the position I'm at now. Like last Sunday, the moment I was in last Sunday, I'm at the truck stop. It's kind of cold out, and I'm at the truck stop, and I feel like 2 days there and go to Northeast 1, I'm standing aside. I'm not going to sit there. I've done the roughing it out in the tent and all that stuff years. And, there it is. They can wait. I'm busy. Good enough. But anyways, I'm at the truck stop, and I kind of woke up kind of sore. I said, God, whatever's going to happen today, I just, basically I'm taking it moment by moment. Wherever you put me in that position at that moment, I'm going to follow the lead that I believe you're sending me on. So they had the church at the tractor trailer church. I got there and I'm told